And we'll just start chatting now and just fade that in. We'll start chatting about that time.
Could I possibly use this?
Yeah.
Like you even saying that?
Should we pick a topic maybe instead, or will we just go with this?
Welcome to the Studio Meala Christmas podcast, live from the Studio Meala Christmas Cabin.
Ho ho ho! What do you think of the cabin? I've had it done up.
Very cozy. It's very nice because I was here last year and it was like, I mean, there was gaps between all the logs and the wind was blowing right through me. My God. And I'm glad that you're here this year because last year I had to count on I had assistance from little sort of elves who played the audio clips, but now you're here, so I feel like the stress is off. We can relax.
We've let the elves go. I'm taking
just
the job
before
of the
Christmas.
elves. Yeah.
Well, you'll notice, Sean, we've got a bucket of logs here. Audio logs, hey? Okay, you like that, and we won't be tossing them on the fire. We're going to be tossing them into your ears.
Right up there. Jamming those logs right in.
Did you like that?
Yeah,
I wrote that down earlier.
That's really good.
Pleased with that. So, what are you drinking there, Sean?
I'm having an old can of Guinness.
An old can of Guinness. A Christmas staple.
Yeah, a Christmas old can. Yeah, like 2 minutes before we started recording, I thought, I should go get a drink, and that was the only thing. I opened the fridge and like the moth came out, and you could hear the sound effect, and that was the only thing there. It was like a SpongeBob thing, like it was just the mold and.
Do you know that's just probably one of my cans from last year left in the cabin fridge.
I think that actually might be what I'm drinking. Is a can you left here last year. That was the only thing I had.
Well, shall we throw on an audio log?
Yeah, throw a log on.
Not onto the fire, but into our listeners' ears.
Into the ears of the people listening.
If you recall.
All right.
The setup.
Here comes a log. I feel like with a comic, there's less pressure to get people moving along the story. You can actually take your time with the space you're in.
Totally. Yeah.
Did that feel much different to how you approach an animatic, your kind of comic process, or?
There's a lot of similarities. Like I guess with animatics and storyboards, like the time sensitive aspect is always there. Which I think is good because like having kind of I was setting deadlines for myself, but like have shorter deadlines, I think you're sort of forcing yourself to, like with boards, it's like you can't spend too long on a drawing. You're like, okay, I have to move on. Like this drawing is as good as it's going to be. Like I'm not going to stay perfected. And I kind of saw that sentiment with comics as well. Like I think it was someone on Twitter said before, if you're kind of obsessing over one bad drawing in a comic, it's probably not important because people probably aren't going to it is one drawing in like a 60 or 70 page comic, like no one's going to care. So you need to sort of be less precious about that kind of stuff.
You don't have that pressure as well, or I guess of worrying that how is someone going to animate this?
That's the thing. Yeah.
One thing I'd say even that happened on the show we worked on. Was that sometimes we'd come back to you and go, okay, for this and this reason, we need to reapproach this scene and make it either easier to animate or this pickup needs to change because we've had to change its design or whatever. So I'd say with comics, you don't have to worry about well, it's not going to go further than this, so I can make this as polished as I want to. Yeah,
pretty much. That is kind of like the one of the nice things. But I kind of do like that aspect of boards where you're sort of thinking, well, I need to make everyone's job down the line as easy as possible, which I think is great. It's a good team learning kind of exercise where you're like, how can I make this more streamlined for the animators and the compers and the background artists? But I guess with comics, you're like, well, I'm going to be the one doing the finished product. So I did learn a lot from doing Valerie, just I guess about like looking back on it now, there's a lot of stuff I would have done different. It's kind of well, there doesn't need to be a really detailed background in every panel, and having kind of read more comics as well. I guess with comics, backgrounds are there, but they're not super important. Like you can kind of get away with like a lot of like kind of just like having a solid color in the background. You just look at the message across.
Yeah.
So I think parts of it I kind of approached it too much like animation. Like where in animation there has to be like a background in every shot, and like everything has to be very grounded. Where with comics you can get very abstract with it, which is also a nice aspect of the medium where you can just like break apart panels and just have kind of like more of a flow into it, and everything. Things don't have to be confined to panels, which is really cool as well.
You don't get as much people come back to you being like, oh, can you just make it so I can't see the character's feet?
Yeah, I know.
That was always the one on the show. It's like, that's one simple fix. It's like, if we just can't see their feet touching the ground, it'll be so much easier to animate because we don't have to.
You don't have to worry about that glide.
Yeah,
it's just like hitting. We can just bounce them around.
Yeah. I imagine that is one of the most difficult things, getting feet walking on the ground. It's like with a moving background and just having everything timed.
It's one of the most common, like, if we were coming.
And that's why in Attack of the Clones there's that bit where Dooku looks like he's just fucking sliding across the floor.
He's wearing moon shoes.
Yeah.
When we were, because like that would have been the most common, like, and it was never a note of like we need to make the scene better. It's just like, it'll just make life easier if we just move the camera up like an inch and just can't see their feet.
Yeah.
And with comics, you can draw as many feet on the ground as you like.
Don't have to worry about that. Yeah, that's another interesting thing with, I guess, still drawings and movement. It's like communicating a sense of movement through a still drawing is something I've always been very interested in. And like something people kind of tell me, like, oh, your drawings have so much kind of movement in them. And like, I do find that interesting because it's something that I think animation has informed me a lot in my drawing, or just doing boards especially, is kind of the idea of how do you look at an image and see that it's moving. Because I guess I'm thinking about like Akira, like Katsuhiro Otomo's like original manga, and like reading that, like parts of it felt like watching a movie because he's so good at like his panel layouts and just communicating characters like moving through a comic, and like just seeing that kind of like really masterful how he does it. Like I think one of the main things with comics is like panel flow, where you can always kind of tell if like panel layout is a bit like it's not flowing, like your eye isn't kind of following. I think the Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama, he's great at that as well. Just this kind of, I guess in animation it would be
kind of guiding the eye.
Guiding the eye, and I think that's another kind of crossover between storyboards and comics, is just how does it flow? Like, is it easy to watch? Like, I think it's what you don't notice is the hardest thing to accomplish in both animation and comics, is what you don't see. Like your brain is noticing it, but like you're like subconsciously you're noticing it, but you're consciously you're complete don't notice it.
Like that's a challenging thing, especially in boards, because at least I mean in editing you've got the luxury of adding a sound effect, but if you're trying to describe something that's not on the screen, like the character can see something but you can't see it, or can hear something but you can't see it, it's harder to get that idea, because you've got that idea in your head and you're trying to give it to me and go like, the character is reacting to this, but it's such it must be such a tough thing to like nail in boards. I mean, it is done, and it's always done so well, and you can be surprised with how much can be done with just the really stripped back drawings.
Totally. And
like you mentioned Akira, I went through the manga last year after always feeling like, oh, that would be such a monumental thing. You get through it in no time.
That's the thing. That's the best thing, I think.
And like, I shouldn't have been surprised, but there were pages where that I was flipping them over, thinking like, I can't believe how exciting this is.
Yeah.
Like action scenes.
Yeah. Totally.
Was like, I'm about to be breathless. And I thought, like, I must have read the first like 20 pages so slowly, because I was of course looking at all those teeny tiny little lines and all the details, windows and but just because it was so gripping, I was flying through it, and I would have to stop now and then and go like, take a moment and appreciate that page took so much work, but it's like his skills for getting that feeling that things are really moving, just
the storytelling. Yeah, I think it's a similar thing with Berserk, where Berserk is like this insane masterpiece. Yeah. But the storytelling's also like also masterful. So
I'm always surprised at how quickly, because I reread it all the time, but I always get through it so fast.
That's the thing, yeah.
Because it's like that. It is. They describe action sequences a lot. Like there is this like lengthy dialogue parts, but most of it is just bam, 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 and like sometimes it'll be a full page single drawing that's got so much movement in it. Just just like a payoff. It'll always be like a wind up on the page before of like sword hand going on the sword, and then the next panel is and just stuff flying up in the air, and it's like yes.
Yeah, he's fucking brilliant at that.
But like you can take those two panels and you could drop them in a video edit and easily you can make a better anime than the actual anime by just getting the panels and just shaking them around on a screen.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Studio Meala beef.
yeah.
Beef has started. We're calling you out.
I don't want to give that anime too much trouble. I'm sure it was a nightmare to work on.
Yeah.
I don't think I could. If I was taught anime all of Berserk, I'd be like, oh, okay.
We'll finally
Let's take a look at what's on the sheet today. Berserk. Huh.
All of it.
Okay, we're gonna need quite a few pens.
Yeah.
A lot of ink.
Well, there you go. How about that, huh?
Great log.
Do you want another one?
Give me another log. Gives a log. Who have we got next?
Up next, we've got this log right here.
No, I was just gonna say. Also, recently we've been getting into Shin-Chan. We've been watching more Crayon Shin-Chan. The movies are so good. Like they're actually genuinely like the best. Some of the best animated movies I've ever seen. Like some of them.
Especially the earlier ones, like the movie 1 until like 10, I think, or 11.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
That's also similar to the Dragon Ball thing. That feels like this end game of, have you actually watched Crayon Shin-Chan? It's just like people discover just how amazingly animated. Because I think some people will see the the scribbly style, and like very easily dismiss it as like, oh right, okay, it looks like that. But then when you see some of those sequences in the films where they go hell for leather with it, it's like, oh my god, this is the most mind-blowing thing I've ever seen, and it looks like that. So it's just a incredible.
And it's like they don't. Yeah, and it's like they don't even need to really change the designs that much. Like the designs are so versatile and they're so simple, but they can use them for so much. And sometimes you have like a new character design, they turn their head and it surprises you in a way, like how they figured out how to draw a character from profile.
Yeah.
With all of those angular shapes, it's every time.
Even in some of the episodes as well, they actually have some really nice animation here and there, and I'm like, oh. Surprise.
Yeah. The first time I saw the mom's like head turn like that, like smoothly, I was like, "Oh wow, okay." I didn't think about it being that shape.
It's just
so
funny
good.
because it feels like a series that absolutely did not need to, as they say, go that hard. Like I think the general the audience that it's aimed towards wouldn't mind if it didn't do all that work. But like, what a beautiful thing to discover for the people who will see it and appreciate the work that's gone in.
I mean, for the parents, if the little kids they hang out with the kids, it's
the
like
parents
okay,
lowering
I'm
the
actually
newspaper.
enjoying this show.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see the weird Western release of Shin-Chan where they just cut up like the original anime into like a different show and then just overdubbed it in English, and it's mad. Like they just made a different show out of the original footage. Like the version that was released in like the UK, I think specifically, had it was just a different show made out of like different clips, and like there was none of the like they basically had to just take out all of the rude stuff basically. But it's really bizarre to go and watch that now because there's basically two shows, and like whenever you talk to people from just in different countries, like a few animators from Spain that I've been talking to, they got the original. They got the original Shin-Chan, so they're all massive Shin-Chan fans. Anyone who discovered it here or in the UK got this weird other show that's nowhere near as good. And it's really weird.
The sanitized part.
Yeah, but it's not even sanitized. It's like they'd get a clip from episode 3, then a clip from episode 7, and a clip from episode 14, and just like jigsaw it together into a different thing. It's wild. They could just do whatever they wanted with it. It's amazing.
Huh. Interesting. No, I've never seen any of these.
Well, there you go. How about that, huh?
Great log.
Do you want another one?
Give me another log. Gives a log. Who we got next?
Up next, we've got this log right here.
Are there any projects, not to put you on the spot, are there any projects that you've done with us at the studio where you look at them now and go, fuck, I could have, why did I do it like that? Like, particularly early day ones. I'm just so much every year that I learned that, like, if I could do that now, I could do it in half the time or better, you know.
I'd say, even going back to Agony Aunt, I was still not working the cameras.
Okay.
You know, I was like parenting the backgrounds and all that instead of using a camera. Yeah. So definitely, you know, that, you know, going back, I would not have done it that way because, you know, let's say you say, oh, actually, could you move it slightly slower? Well, then it's a whole...
I was going to say, you probably learned how frustrating it was because I kept asking you to change the camera.
Yeah, but it was worth it in the end, you know? It's like, oh, I know how to do it now. That's the right way, you know? It's like, you know, like even with shakes and that kind of thing, if you do it manually, it's, you know, a headache. Because then the client or whoever, director, could be like, oh, you know, it's like, it seems small. Because when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, surely you could change, you know, this really easily. But then when you look at the file and After Effects, it's like, oh my God, like it's all connected to each other. And if you change one keyframe, it all like falls apart.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that was years back. But like now it's like, okay, now I set it up so that doesn't happen, you know? So it's like, if anything has to be changed, it won't fall apart. That's a big thing to learn in After Effects, like in comp, you know. Yeah.
Don't worry, someday we're going to George Lucas the entire Studio Meala back catalogue. Just do them all again. And then in another couple of years we'll do them all again, but in 3D.
Remaster.
Just put CGI characters on top of everything.
Yeah.
When I watched the Coen brothers, it was sort of a commentary, succinct commentary, like an edited down one, where they were watching their first movie, Blood Simple, again. And something they mentioned in that I really liked was they kept talking about how much they saw that was wrong, because of course, you know, they've had decades to look at this again, and they've learned so much since then. And they said, like, if we were making this film today, it would cost $100 million more, and it would be a much less interesting film. Because like it's nice that they still appreciate that, like, yes, this is very rough early days stuff, and we can tell that this is where we were learning, but still there's a beauty in that.
There's worth in it. Like, it's still good. So
I definitely had moments where I wanted to like remake one of my college films from scratch. But no, there's not really any point. Let's just leave it the way it is, you know. It's nice to go back and see the way you would have done things at a different time.
Well, there you go. How about that, huh?
Great log.
Do you want another one?
Give me another log. Gives a log. Who have we got next?
Up next, we've got this log right here.
You've reminded me of a time in college when we were doing life drawing. Basically, the model, who I won't name, who was really great, was just always looking for the most interesting poses he could do. We were doing a session of, like 1 minute gesture drawings. And this model, anyone will know who he is from his catchphrase, which was every time he changed pose, he would go, changing. And he would change into a different pose. And he kept going and going and going and going. And we got to like I remember what it was. The teacher left, being like, "Oh, I've got to go do something. I'll be back in like 10 minutes. Can you just keep doing new poses and you know up or lower the amount of seconds every like 10 poses or whatever." So we got to 30-second poses, and he was going changing into a new pose, changing into a new pose. And when we got to like the 15-second poses, you could see him in his head, like him trying, I've run out of things to do. I've run out of interesting poses I can do. And at one point, he went changing, and he like lifted up his leg and put his foot in his mouth and was holding onto his foot. It was really impressive, but nobody drew because everyone was so looking at each other being like, are you seeing this? Look at this. Look what he's doing. It was just incredible. And at that point I think everyone stopped drawing because I was like, okay, I think we've reached the limit of what a man can do.
Definitely just took this opportunity. The lecturer was out of the room. This is it. I'm getting my foot in my mouth. And then for 15 seconds and I'm going to get it out. And then I'm just going to be like, oh, I don't know. Why did they draw that? I wasn't doing that. They're making fun of me.
It was just incredible.
Sean, what was it like just seeing peak human potential in that moment?
Yeah, exactly. That's why no one could draw. It's like, it feels blasphemous to draw this. It's like,
everyone's character sheets from then on, like their turnarounds include a
it's like a foot mouth guy.
Yeah, need 4 angles of that.
Foot mouth OC. Yeah.
What a shame it would be if everyone in the class did their absolute best work of the year in those 15 seconds, and then they're holding it after. It's like, but do I want it in my portfolio? I mean, this is beautiful work, but I don't know.
It's one of those things where someone who wasn't there would look at the picture and go, no, that's wrong. No one would do that.
Yeah. But they see like 30 copies of it. Just like, no, wait.
How from a 360 degree, like, because everyone's around him, so you're getting every angle of it too.
Oh, how wonderful to put those all together on a reel and just have this rotating, spinning man.
With that emotional piano music, you know, the guy who takes a photo of himself every day for 5 years.
But also dub in.
Just gumming sounds.
Yum, yum.
What do you feel when you're watching action scenes, like be they live action or animated? What do you think really makes the difference between an action scene that pops and keeps your attention and one of the ones that's so often the way, like an action scene can start in a film or a show and you can kind of tune out, like you're just sort of waiting for it to end. Okay, they're gonna punch each other. Okay, I got it. But what do you think, or what do you look for an action scene that makes you care about what is happening?
I like seeing like moments of like character in action sequences, and readability are definitely like the two big important things. Like Legend of Korra is really good at it. They definitely took a lot of like inspiration from old like kung fu movies and put a stationary camera down and just shift a little bit. Like, don't be like waggling the camera all which way. If the characters are fighting each other, like make one color and make one another. Like that was something that like even like the stick figure fights way back in the day used to do. It's like, all right, black stick man is fighting blue stick man. I'm not confused who's who. It's easy. It's right there. I know who's winning.
Peter Griffin at chicken.
Yeah, actually, it's very well done. That's some of the only great animation in Family Guy is these act as his chicken fight sequences.
We got to give everybody their due.
Oh yeah.
And now comes another impassioned speech, folks. If you like animation at all, please watch Family Guy. You gotta watch this show. He's like a family guy.
It's in the title.
Imagine this.
Sorry, I'm trampling all over your good answer with my stupid Family Guy bit.
Beautiful. Readability and like being able to give characters like I don't want like just to like mannequins fighting each other. I want to like I want to be able to see kind of like the goofiness in there. And like I guess this also goes back to Jackie Chan, because like all of his stuff is just so, it's like he mixes slapstick with his fights. It's all so funny. At one point, he and another guy like punch each other in the chest, and they kind of like stand up. Oh no, it's Drunken Master. They have the chairs. And they like one bashes the other over the back with it, and he returns and does the exact same thing. And they both kind of stand there like it wasn't anything, and they walk off just out of sight from each other. And they're like, and they're like rubbing it out a little bit, and then they peek around the corner at the same time, and both stand back up and like get back.
I think one thing that like is a good one as well is kind of not using like the camera as a crutch to like hide things too much, but if you do use the camera, like treat it like a character or treat it like part of the character. I think you do that quite well in some of the fight scenes I've seen you do, where like sometimes I've opened up some of your fight scenes that you've sent me, and like I'd see the preview with the camera, and it would be like, you know, a character punching another character, and you use the camera because of, you know, the limited amount of drawings you have, or like how quickly the shot needs to get turned around. You'd have the character like stretch out their arm, and then it's the camera shaking left and right that does the impact. And it's so funny. Then I would like open the TV Paint file and like look at it without the camera, and it's like what the fuck is this? It's like it's just characters like punching, and then they're like still for a second, and then like it looks really odd. But then you used the camera as like a part of the character rather than, you know, just shaking the camera around to like hide like especially in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. A lot of action films would just shake the camera constantly because like we didn't choreograph anything. We're just going to have people kind of fight and get 10 cameras in different places, have them shake, and then cut between them every half a second so that you just don't know what's happening.
Yeah. It could be two actors doing Ring a Rosie, but you'd never know because they're just like...
Yeah.
Just flash around. I mean, that Resident Evil... That last Resident Evil film, I mean, every cut is a blink, and nobody's doing anything impressive. And if they are, it's being completely wasted.
Yeah. So. I think that's one reason people come back to the old boy hallway scene so much, is because like it is just an example of like they just had the camera sit in one place for 2 minutes or something, and I mean it slowly pans from left to right, but it's like they had such confidence in how well choreographed that fight scene was. Like, yeah, we don't need to do anything here, it's all there. And
you're also very right about the like showing character in it, because, you know, if I see a fight scene, if Captain America is using his shield and doing cool shield stuff in a fight scene, I'm engaged, and I'm also like, yay, Captain America's doing his thing. But if a film ends with, not that they've ever done this, but if a film ended with Captain America and Red Skull just sort of punching each other and rolling around, that would be very, very boring if they ever did that.
If it ever happened.
That would not be a great way to end a movie.
Purely hypothetical.
Well, wouldn't you know it? We're all out of logs until next year, I suppose. So we might be out of logs, audio logs, which are not for the fire but for your ears. But what we do have is the never-ending stress of the Oblique strategy card. Now, last year for Christmas, I pulled one for myself. So I'm glad you're here so that I can pull one for you.
I mean, I've got the same thing.
Well, you can pull one for me out of your pile.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
Okay.
You do me first.
So, your Oblique strategy card is...
Courage.
Courage with an exclamation mark.
That's not... courage isn't a suggestion. Well, I guess it's just meant to inspire. Yeah. Courage. The Cowardly Dog. We're bringing back Courage the Cowardly Dog next year. We own the IP.
Just add Courage the Cowardly Dog to whatever it is you're working on.
I'm thinking of David Bowie in the studio, the Berlin years, Courage. And that's where... Courage the Cowardly Dog.
I suppose that is a nice one if you were, say, you know, worrying about what you were working on, like in the kind of like, oh, well, you know, should I do that? Maybe people won't like that or whatever. And you go, well, you know, I'll just do it.
No.
David Bowie in the studio saying, no.
Get ready for all the courage that I'm going to have next year, folks. All right, Owen. I've got an Oblique strategy card for you.
Gardening, not architecture.
Huh?
Well, I mean, that's just what I needed to hear. right now, you know, because the project I'm working on right now, I was like, oh, I don't know, and now, gardening.
Yeah, with architecture, you're working to a blueprint, and it's got to be exactly that, and you follow out the plan as it goes. With gardening, you're not in full control. You have to. You're at the behest of the elements, and plants just might decide to not do anything. So
gardening, not architecture, is closer to what I was hoping the Oblique Strategies cards would be like, because that has sparked a little bit of just got me thinking about another thing. Okay, Oblique Strategy cards, they're back in the good books.
They're worth the money.
So that's another year of that bit.
Brian Eno, we don't want our money back for now. Do you mind, Owen, if I just take over the podcast for just a bit?
Okay.
Because since
just take good care of it.
I will. I won't drop. I mean, if you want to interrupt at any point for any of this, just go for it. In fact, your commentary would probably be appreciated as I go.
Could I have your Guinness while you're
here
in
you
charge?
Go. Here it is.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just a few little headlines of things we did this year that I thought would be worth reminding ourselves of. So here we go. Most of it I can't actually talk about, so it's just going to be useless. But no, this year was the biggest we've ever been in terms of having a load of people working with us. We've had 2 really particularly big projects this year throughout the entire year that wrapped up kind of more or less in the past few weeks. One of them wrapped up today. I can't give any details on what they are or who they're for or what they're like, but they will be out next year, and they're both short films, and they're both going to be kind of a big deal. They'll be on a streaming service. Hello.
Sign up to all of those.
You'll be giving a company your money to watch these things, unless you're just logged into your friend's one or whatever. Because of those 2 projects, the studio was as big as nearly like 100 people at times this year, and
golly,
that was mad. I'm going to thank some more people on that later, but Cleena and Cora, who are both on the podcast, definitely need big thank yous for their work on those. Speaking of Cora, you might have noticed on our Instagram, short film is on its way. Like we're in the early development of that project right now. It's called Wolf. It's a short film that Cora's been trying to make for a while, so we're doing it with Studio Meala. We're going to be sharing like clips and behind the scenes stuff and work in progress, like as close to every week as we can. One project we can talk about, the new Storybots show that's on Netflix right now. We animated 3 episodes of it, or 3 segments of it. So Storybots is a preschool show, which is actually, it's kind of like Sesame Street in that, you know, Sesame Street is for little babies, but you can actually you genuinely can have a good time watching Sesame Street as an adult. I think Storybots really fits into that category of kids TV.
So it's for babies, but maybe Macklemore will show up.
Yeah, babies and big babies. But no, we had a really good time working on 3 segments. So I think the episodes of this new season are kind of split into like mini episodes with different styles and stuff. One of our episodes is in the first season, which was directed by Aisling Conroy. Thank you, Aisling, who also directed a few of our projects this year. And there's going to be a few other episodes. One of them is actually a collaboration with Remus and Kiki, who were on the podcast before. But the other 2 episodes we worked on will be out, I think, in a later season. But yeah, that's available to watch now. So yeah, go watch the new Storybots show. Sarah Benson's short film, Hermit, which we developed with her this year. And I think you should be able to keep an eye out for her film, Hermit, in the new year at various festivals and stuff. And then I'd say eventually it'll be available online somewhere. But that's just another project we wrapped up. So thank you, Sarah. It was great working with you on that one. But no, we've did 2 Comic-Con tables this year and 1 decaf. which is Dublin Comic Arts Festival. We'll be doing more next year. But yeah, it was really great doing them this year, and thanks to everyone who showed up, bought some prints and zines. Thanks to Sinead, who led the charge on getting the Studio Meala zines prepped. She kind of directed those first 2 volumes, and we'll probably be doing another one soon.
And lovely volumes they are.
They're very good. And buy one if you ever see one. Buy one. All of those merch things like prints and zines and T-shirts, that goes straight back into a fund for our own IP development. So like getting any shows made and things like that. So thanks to everyone who bought one of those as well. This year we were also at Annecy, which was just great because it was the first time we were ever at Annecy, which is the animation festival in Annecy in France. It was really great meeting people at that, and hopefully we'll see everyone there again next year. We also released a music video for The Amazing, which is directed by Cora. And then I think that's all of the projects I can mention that aren't under ridiculous NDA. But I mean, I can add on to that this year was really great for getting our IP stuff kind of going. I mean, Owen, you can attest to this. So the thing we've been working on is really starting to move now.
Yeah, it's bubbling in an exciting and terrifying way.
Yeah, we've got...
Certainly for me, being a little bit outside the usual process, seeing it from the inside now and like how it's built up from the ground and realizing, oh, this is just how you make cartoons. It really...
It's happening. Yeah.
And this has happened for every cartoon. People just do all these great drawings and talk about it, and then it happens.
It's wild. I mean, it's like we've got character designs now. We've got scripts kind of nearly. We've got a trailer in development, and that's...
We got hopes. We got dreams.
And we're putting all of our...
we got eggs. We got a basket.
Yeah. No, we've got a trailer hopefully coming out in around March or April next year. I'm going to say May as well, just throwing that in there just in case it is May, and so I'm not embarrassed later on. And just other IP things are still on the way. Stuff that was previously shown on YouTube, Animal Airport, that's still in development, and that we still intend on putting that out. There's been a lot of work on that this year. Meala Minis, I really wanted to thank everyone who worked on the one this year, but then I realized we haven't had a session of thanking people who did them previously. So what we have to do is thank everyone who's ever done one now, and then in the next Christmas podcast we can just do the list from that year.
Well, let's see how quickly you can do it.
Yeah, I boiled it down to first name. I just boiled it down to first names just to give myself a chance. All right, here we go. Thank you to Becky, Joe, Niall, Habbo, John, Kevin, me, Jerome, Dara, Cleona, Matthew, Bo, Sinead, Cass, Niall, Fred, Matthew, John again, Becky again, Niall again, Diego, David, Kevin again, Kira, Cora, Keith, Jerome again, Aaron, Cass again, Dolphin, Di, Cassandra, Camille, Kishan, Ruth, Veer, Sabine, Kayvon, Luca, Elliot, Dara again, Rosa, Shola, Jeff, Rebecca, Axel, Ollie, Remus and Kiki, Aaron again, Jerome again, August, Carla, Jack and Lorenzo. Thank you all. Your Meala Minis have been great. It's been so good being able to put them out and watch them and rewatch them. So everybody just go watch all the Meala Minis. Because
do you want me to edit out even like the tiniest intakes of breath between those?
So it's just yeah. And then we'll probably we generally put out a compilation reel of just all of the Meala Minis from the year. So that should be out in December or in early January. I think Owen will join me in thanking Niamh McKenna, who
absolutely.
I guess we should probably consider based like the producer of the Meala podcast. Niamh is the one who organizes us and gets all the file management together, kind of puts the fire under our arses to get guests lined up and make sure we've actually recorded something.
Yes, a huge thank you to Niamh for really making the podcast happen and making sure that we we're on the runway in time and all that.
I'd like to also thank just a few people worth mentioning. Shane Perez, who kind of joined us this year as a script editor and development lead, has been great with helping us get our IP moving along. I also want to thank Leon, Abby, Megan, Una and Darren. We had some really intense projects this year that have been the most kind of challenging projects we've ever taken on, and we just learned a lot from our production team on those. It just really helped the studio, and we're really better off for it having done those projects. So thanks everyone, and thanks to everyone on those two big projects. I think when they come out, we'll probably do a podcast about them, and I'll probably thank just everyone who worked on it then, just so no one's like, hey, you didn't mention me. It's hard to name people, all right? Go away. Take out the go away.
I'm sure for 99% of the audience, they're thinking he should be thanking more people.
Yeah. Surely just loads of people. Just keep thanking people. I love listening to
thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Another two people that I don't think we've ever thanked on the podcast, who we probably should, Jerry and Stephen, who are the two other co-founders of the studio. I think Stephen was probably the one who had the idea that we should probably have a podcast in the first place, and Jerry is the guy that we convinced to give us a budget to make the podcast at all. So that's really important. So thank you, Jerry, and thanks, Stephen, and Owen, thank you. You're great.
Oh heck no! Come on, don't.
Because you edit.
No one wants this. But thank you, Sean, for thanking me, and thank you, of course, for joining me and co-hosting on the podcast. I think it's fair to say that you've made it much better.
No, don't.
by joining in, and I also just want to thank Neve again for everything he's done, and everyone at Meala, and thank you for the opportunity to host this wonderful podcast, and just to contribute in any way to Meala's runaway success is
we
is
should
a wonderful honor.
We should get this whole bit from when I started and just make it 1.25 speed, like the terms and conditions bit.
It'll get a little faster.
Yeah.
Every time you say thank.
Yeah.
That's fine. Look, it's because we've split one can of ancient Guinness. It's just all coming out.
I love yous. Yous are all
yous are all
Speaking
great.
of which, probably
buy a hoodie.
The podcast will probably be out after it's happened. But our Studio Meala Christmas party is happening this weekend. Isn't that wild?
Ow!
Yeah, that's all my bits, I think.
Well, those were lovely bits, Sean. Thank you for sharing your bits. So, I think we should wrap up here, both literally and figuratively. I mean, look at the snow outside. It's mad. At the risk of speeding the podcast audio up even further, thank you for joining me in the Christmas cabin.
Thank you for having me.
With any luck, we'll be here again in a year. Actually, we should remember before we lock up to leave a single can of something
for next year
when we come back.
I'll head down to Spar and get us like a BPM.
One bottle of Baby Sham, not even in the fridge, just on the counter.
That's a good idea.
Well, until next time, from the Studio Meala podcast in the Studio Meala Christmas Cabin, we hope you all have a lovely holiday time and New Year smiles and all the rest of it.
And have a big dinner.
Have a big dinner, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Why not have a big dinner?
Just go have a big dinner. Go on.
Have a big
go
dinner.
have your big dinner, folks.
The listeners, they'll be like, should I have a big dinner? Well, we're saying yes.
Yeah. Loads of big dinners for you.
Let us know about your big dinners in the comments.
All right, go have a big dinner. Eat your dinner. Yum, yum, yum. Tasty dinners. Turkey.